Where I am giving call center baddie right now. Yes, I'm very aware of that. Make do with it. Hello everyone, welcome to my video. We're talking about the Manosphere. So I watched a documentary on Netflix called Into the Manosphere by Louis Theroux, and I said, hey, good insight. Where's the impact? So that's why I wanted to make a video talking about the impact. It's a bit scary knowing that these men, these influences, have such impact on how our society has been shaped. You know, I feel like it's one of the main reasons why Trump was elected, was because of their space. I want to give a quick trigger warning for the people and the viewers at home. This video will have heavy themes of domestic violence and abuse. It will have themes of suicide and mental health as well, along with exploitation. Also, call center baddie. I kind of want to lean into this call center aesthetic right now. Yes, hello. I love that every single time I think about me on the phone, my voice goes up like 3 decibels. Yeah, one thing about me, guys, I'm a fake bitch. Okay, if you ever call me, hey, how are you? It's a lie. It's not a version of me that's real. Alright, we're gonna talk about the first thing that the Manosphere feeds on, which is perception. The Manosphere really feeds on perceptions and the ideology of what it means to be a man, and the main thing they market off of is insecurity. They lean into things like pride, right? What a man should be, or sloth, what a man shouldn't be. So what a man should be, what a man shouldn't be. So this alpha male vibe comes from pride. Like, you know, they make this what you should be is this alpha. They use like Wolfpack terminology for some reason. I didn't know they knew about the Omegaverse like that. Freaky! But they use terms like alpha, sigma, and all that, and beta, to like kind of differentiate the man you should be versus the man you shouldn't be. Most of the time, guys, when people use these terminology, they're not being serious, but sometimes these guys are actually being dead serious. So the alpha and versus the beta is like, the alpha is like this ultimate version of man, like kind of really like going into patriarchal themes of what a man should be, like a leader, someone who's dominant, someone who doesn't take shit, someone who's confident. And that's where it comes into this other thought of this people in this space come as this all-knowing energy. So what does that really mean? So these people like market themselves as the alpha, as someone who can teach you how to be this ultimate version of a man, where beta is someone, they often use the word cuck in association, which is kind of weird to me. Beta is like someone who's timid and someone who gets stepped on, and someone who isn't a leader, someone who's a follower. So they will kind of compare the two and what you should be as a man and what you shouldn't be. When it comes back to insecurity of like what a man is, and kind of like the marketing of malehood. So this all-knowing, these people will kind of feed into these nonsense of like what a man should be, and what a man normally is someone who's got money, power, and what they would say would be the B word. But we don't disrespect women on this channel. Yeah, one thing about me, guys, I'm a fake bitch. So this is the kind of things that they feed on, and they will kind of sell their programs to be based around, is how to have money, how to get power, how to have women. It's like this kind of pyramid scheme of like, they will teach you this if you invest in them. They normally connect to money with their cryptocurrency as well. I'll go into the next thing a bit more about cryptocurrency and how they kind of use that. The all-knowing also links into like the red pill. So if you hear about the red pill, it normally goes into this concept that they themselves, the all-knowing, the people that are leading the pack of the wolves, they would show you this red pill, and it's like this wake up to society. And that's how you realize that it's like the realization of the system that these men are in. Like, it's awareness of capitalism and how to market off of capitalism. And you take this red pill, you become aware of how to get something like money, power, and women. So it's like this is like what they sell. This is also part of the product that they sell that comes along with the all-knowing. So they use the red pill to conceptualize like society. You know what's so crazy? They used one of my favorite movies and ruined it for this agenda. No, why would they watch The Matrix and say, let's use that as a concept in the Manosphere? That's so annoying. Next thing I want to talk about is greed and envy. So, like I was saying before, the Manosphere, it teaches men that they need money, power, and women to basically show that they are a man, to demonstrate that they are a man. These, as our trinity, is the stepping stones of how you'll become the ultimate man. And the way that they sell different things, they use different strategies. Like with money, they connect to crypto, and this is where exploitation comes in. So the cryptocurrency, they would often sell their own coins, or they would sell something that benefits them in some type of way. And it mostly, and we can see in the documentary, it doesn't really benefit the viewer. And the power, they will connect to their own like programs. But this is like something like Hustlers University, how to become the ultimate version of yourself, in like a scheme and like a way of like a program. But it's not really something that benefits you. It's just teaching you patriarchal themes and patriarchal core beliefs, and nothing about, actually, this is how you can learn about your emotional regulation. No, they won't do that because that's women shit. And so how do they connect to women? How can they sell women? Well, I will talk this within the next section a bit more, but they use OnlyFans women, okay, to sell their narrative of what women are. I'll discuss that further. We're gonna come back to that one. That's very, very important. So this greed and envy, it pushes entitlement, okay? Because these spaces, they're gonna teach you all these things, right? And after you get all that knowledge, you feel like, well, I learned so much. I deserve these things now. Why don't I have it? And that entitlement leads into frustration, and then that frustration leads into anger, and then that anger leads into abuse. It's a cycle. And that entitlement builds cultures, it builds communities like incel culture. Because they believe they've done the work now, and they're aware of these systems because of the red pill, coming back to the red pill. They believe that they're aware of these systems. They feel resentment towards women specifically for not giving their bodies to them, because they, like I said, they feel entitled to them, because, coming back to the term incel, involuntary, which basically means like it was forced on them, was something that they didn't choose. Women aren't supposed to give their bodies up. It's their God-given right. They need to do that. Yeah, it feeds into their ideas that they are deserving of women because they've done the work. And when they don't get women, that leads into further issues. So incel culture connects back to the Manosphere because it's a culture that emulates within this space. I feel envious towards the creators that are basically making their content, because the Manosphere influencers often have these big three. They often have women power and success, so they are looking up to them as some kind of role model of like this type of mentor to be like, to aspire towards. If they've got to figure out, then how do I become that? And it builds envy. Alright, and it keeps them watching the Manosphere content because they want to learn how to gain these things, because they want to become these things. They want to become the ultimate version of a man. They want to reach this ideology of what manhood is presented to them within this space. Also, before I rub this off, I want to have a quick PSA towards the women, specifically about the envy stuff. So often I see on TikTok mainly that they will look at this system, right, and specifically about the fact that men look up to other men and are inspired by other men, but then they say because of the fact that the men within this space are looking up to other men, it's gay. And I really detest this. I really do detest this, and I really want women to hear me when I say this. Love you guys, not the greatest way to get them out of these systems. Think about it, okay? You're saying men within this space are gay because they're looking at other men as an example of how to be a man, and they're looking up to these men and they want to be like these men. Things are changing, things are turning. Men are losing their identity. This space, the Manosphere, creates an identity for them. Yes, this identity is detrimental, and I explained that in this video, but calling them gay isn't going to change them. And also, it's not a great way to encapsulate them and their behaviors. You calling them gay is you basically saying gay people bad. Just don't call them gay. Spark notes! Just don't call these people gay, because that's wrong. It's incorrect. It's not just factually wrong, it's also detrimental to the queer community. You're basically saying gay people are inherently pushing the patriarchy down people's throats when it's not correct. The patriarchy is created by powerful, influential, straight men because they know it keeps women in oppressive states. That's why they have these spaces created for them to push their narrative down and continue to oppress women, and that's why the cycle of abuse continues. This is not homosexual behavior, this is the patriarchy's behavior. Also, in this video you'll come to learn I'm ambidextrous! What does that mean? That means I'm big brain, guys. That means you have to listen to me because I can use both hands. Let's talk about the next thing, which is lust. I want to talk about specifically how they used lust as a concept, as a monetization tool, to use to attract and use for engagement specifically. These creators, like we saw with HS, normally have like a baddie by their side, and they're normally an OnlyFans model, and like they profit off of these OnlyFans models. Obviously, we see with HS specifically, but I want to talk about how that's detrimental for the development in the brain for these young men that are watching this content, specifically for those who are still forming their understandings of relationship and intimacy with women. The heavy use of platforms like OnlyFans, the consistency of OnlyFans models being used, like we could see with Myron Gaines on Fresh and Fit, he brings women, OnlyFans models mostly, who are on the plot, comes on his platform, and on the surface it may seem like this is some open discussion or debate, but the selection of guests is not neutral. It's a specific representation of what women should look like and what women are. And those women only being platformed, the ones that mainly are interacting within the sexual space, it teaches ideology of specifically the audience that this is what women look like. It turns women into this monolith, specifically suggesting that they are transactional, they are materialistic, and they're primarily defined by their sexuality. Which is interesting because I said a man is someone that they deem money, power, and women, but they resent that system. They resent that the system exists and that they have to fulfill the expectations of the system. So they would get mad at women, specifically this Myron guy, who would say, like, the woman would say, like, I just want someone that can look after me at the grand scheme of things. And he does this stupid thing that we see on the podcast where it's like, that's like 1% of a man, you've got to settle. It really, he does that to degrade women, and that's mainly what happens within his podcast. Women are often interrupted, they are talked over, they are dismissed, their perspectives are controlled, edited, and framed, specifically in the ways that it reinforces his narrative. It's disgusting. Rather than making this a space for them to speak as individuals, they're used as examples to prove a point. Specifically, I'm going to talk about HS again, and how he uses OnlyFans model. He uses it as deliberate strategies. Like, the way that women are presented on his stream feeds into the desires and captures his audience that mainly made up of teenage men and young boys, captures their attention, it keeps their viewers engaged, and it creates emotional investment for them to keep coming back to the podcast or the whatever fuck he does. I don't know, I don't watch him, but whatever he does, it keeps them engaged because they're like, oh, a pretty girl, okay. Over time, this repeated exposure of women shapes his audience and how they understand women. Instead of seeing women as complex individuals with their own thoughts and minds, they see them as their bodies, as entertainment, as rewards, as something to be consumed rather than to be connected with. At the same time, obviously, we see with HS, there's a clear business model that he's using beneath the surface. So he invests in these women and promotes them and financially benefits from the system that he literally says that he doesn't support, because he would reject his daughter if she was an OnlyFans model. But, one thing about HS, he's a pimp.
What?
That's literally pimping. Guys, he's showing, let's put that word up on here. He's showing these women on his platform, right? And has a vetted interest in them. And he can benefit off of these women who are sexualizing themselves on his podcast, because the men within the audience are seeing these beautiful, attractive women and who is this lady? And it goes onto their OnlyFans account and invest in that business. So it's historically the same, as pimping was involved in controlling and profiting off of sex work in similar spaces. The platform replaces the street, the influencers replaces direct control, and women are showcased. That's the baseline. Women are showcased and their content is amplified. The audiences are funneled towards them, and they create continuous profit off of the engagement and subscription and visibility of these women being sexualized. Fun stuff, love that. So women only being seen in the space of OnlyFans leads to further objectification of women, because it leads them into watching more content that is explicit. Alright, it's a cycle, okay? So the constant exposure to sexualized content, whether through pornography or platforms like OnlyFans, has a significant impact on how the brain processes attraction. There are studies on this, I'm sure you guys are aware, but I'll put some in the caption so you guys can see. But it impacts how the brain processes attraction, relationships, and intimacy. Pornography specifically, because it creates this unrealistic, performative example of what intimacy looks like. It removes emotional connection, and it focuses purely on physical gratification. You know, big words, yeah, big words. And conditions the specific viewers to constantly seek novelty and stimulation, which leads the young men to become desensitized, right? This one feeling that was once exciting becomes normal, and the extreme content they've been watching need to watch more explicit videos to achieve the same type of simulation. And for young men specifically, who are the target demographic, this distorts their understandings. Specific things like consent, mutual pleasure, emotional intimacy, and realistic relationship. Intimacy becomes something to consume rather than something to share. And this desensitization, watching explicit videos, leads to a higher rate of SA. Guys, it's so hard to use these words because I want to use the right ones, but YouTube is a terrible platform when it comes to talking about these important topics. So I'm going to say, I don't care. Let's just use the words. Sexual abuse. Sexual abuse is a big thing that kind of comes within this space because you watch the videos and it leads to impacts their ideologies of obviously consent and emotional intimacy. So when lust is combined with entitlement and objectification, what's normally known turns into rape culture. It leads into like further objectification of women, reducing them to just roles. Like they reduce women to their roles of like dishwasher, cleaner, or sandwich maker, removing their humanity and reinforcing the idea that their value is functional or sexual. It also feeds into like double standards. There's a strong emphasis on body count and the measure of a value. Many men are praised for their higher body counts, where women are shamed for the same for having a higher body count. And this creates a system where women are judged and controlled, where men are encouraged to pursue a conquest and seeing women as a conquest, and that leads to entitlement of bodies because that women are designed as a conquest. So then men are taught that achieving women's bodies is like as a term of success. More bodies means more respect. So it leads them to having this expectation that women I deserve a woman's body, and when that expectation is not met, frustration turns into that resentment. In extreme cases, this resentment also justifies like harmful beliefs of women and this belief that they are owed men, and this becomes normalized in their sexual content that they're watching. They're watching this degrading videos, and over time these videos become normal to them, and over time they become less sensitive to the impacts of the attitudes that are showed within these videos specifically. Guys, it's very sad because the objectification of women often leads them to how women are perceived. So women are often seen as something to like obtain, something to consume, something to judge. This is why they have so many opinions of us. Rather than like seeing women as like equal participants of a relationship, they use women as like a target strategy of like how to create like a rage bait, which is so interesting that they position women that way. They use lust specifically to draw their viewers in. They show content that reinforces objectification, and that objectification feeds into entitlement, and that entitlement feeds into that resentment. That resentment feeds into the abuse of women, which leads us to our next sin, gluttony. We're gonna use gluttony to connect to overconsumption. Overconsumption. Who is eating this up? The young man. I just said that the target demographic is normally young men. So, what am I hearing on the streets, guys? The algorithm is pushing this to young men. So I'm gonna write Al Gore, because it's Al Gore's rhythm. Guys, that's a very meta joke. You know, guys, you've watched Kimmy if you know what this means. What I'm hearing on the streets is that people are creating accounts on TikTok as like young boys, apparently, allegedly, and they're getting Manosphere content within like 5 swipes. Wow! Why does the algorithm push this shit? Like, why? Who does it benefit? Guess who it benefits, guys? It doesn't just benefit the patriarchy. It actually impacts the government. Yep. Shout out to Trump, guys. He used the fuck out of the boys within this space, man. He really did. And he was using them as to push why he should be elected. That the people in power are creating the chaos that is here right now. The Manosphere is like literally a content distraction from our reality. This content brings like normalization of behavior and language is the main thing I want to expand on because it informs culture and it becomes normalized. Okay, and the normalization connects to ideals of misogyny and teaches concepts of like gaslighting, actually, which is kind of interesting. I'll talk about that a bit because the male influencers in this space will gaslight the viewers to hell and back. So they will do that. It's perpetuating a sized system. So then it goes male influencer gaslights viewer to thinking they are right, that they are the all knowing, so they know everything, and that everything that they are teaching you is the correct thing. And anyone who disagrees otherwise are wrong, and they will use buzzwords like they're woke or woman, they'll social justice warrior, and then they will discredit and they'll put some shit in your face to make it seem like they are right to listen to. So then they will perpetuate that to other people. They'll be like, no, this person you shouldn't be listening to. Let's say myself, because she's bought from the CIA, and they'll try to stop you from listening to someone like me, an individual that is telling you to stop listening to this nonsense, which completes the cycle of gluttony and overconsumption because it's just like keeping them within these systems of being brainwashed. Because they are the all-knowing, they know everything. What is a woman gonna know? Guys, a woman can't know anything. If you think about it, what do women actually really know? We're gonna talk about wrath. So this is the end-all be-all sin. Okay, this is the most dangerous. Why is it so important? Femicide. There is destruction being sold in the narratives that are being presented by these Manosphere creators. Wrath connects to destruction. This is the reason why I made this video, because I was like, hey Louis, people are dying. The Manosphere is deadly. The Manosphere does not directly tell men to commit more violence, but it creates conditions where violence becomes more likely. Do you get what I mean? It's a culture that's being created, the degrading language that is used towards women, the idea that women are just objects and rewards for men, the belief that men are entitled to women, the minimization of women's autonomy and consent. Over time, these ideas become internalized, right? What starts off as jokes, commentary, or debate, it becomes belief. And when it's reinforced enough, it becomes behavior. Wrath feeds into patriarchy. When a man is taught that he is not enough, that his worth depends on status and money or control, that a woman is something that he should have access to, and he does not achieve those things, the gap between expectation and reality turns into anger, and this anger turns into resentment, and resentment, when left unchecked, can turn into violence, which comes back to femicide, right? So femicide is the intentional killing of women. It's because of their gender, and it's a genuine global crisis. In 2024, 50,000 women worldwide were killed by an intimate partner or family member. This is one woman every 10 minutes. Someone is being killed within their own home, in their own close circle. It's not just impacting women. It's not just impacting women. It's also impacting men. That this system that they're trying to sell, that this benefits mankind because you're going to learn about how to be a man, it's bad for them because it teaches them that mental health isn't real. Like you saw in the documentary, male suicide rates have always been prevalent, and the Manosphere, it teaches them that men don't have mental health issues, that they just need to grind. What's so crazy about this space is that it offers community and a shared experience and like the sense of belonging between men. And it also creates a shared identity of manhood, right? And for many men, this is the first time they feel understood. This is the first time they feel connected. This is the first time they feel belonging. But this belonging comes at a cost. Men are left feeling inadequate, not able to express that vulnerability because they feed into patriarchy. They feed into patriarchy that they're not allowed to feel that emotion because a man doesn't feel anything. And it isolates them and teaches them not to acknowledge their own emotion, and it causes ongoing dangerous internal conflict. These men are struggling, but they're told that their struggle is not valid. It teaches that mental health isn't real, right? And that's what's crazy. Why would it teach that? Because it's trying to suppress men's emotions, and it's trying to tell them to just improve by diving into their programs. Instead of guiding men towards healing, these spaces pull them into deeper understandings of negative beliefs about themselves. And it builds resentment towards women and builds these rigid, unrealistic standards of masculinity. You're taught in these spaces if you're not enough until you become something else. Which leads into my next point of what can we do? This is so heavy, guys. Hearing this shit is very heavy. Okay, because I'm hearing it myself. I know how heavy it is, and a lot of people are thinking, "What the hell, bro? This is very structurally flawed. What can we do?" First thing we need to do is change that algorithm. Okay, the algorithm needs to go. It needs to change. Okay, because if the young men are being fed this shit as soon as they're scrolling on TikTok, like 5 scrolls in, it's not looking good, man. If they're getting fed this nonsense 24/7, they're gonna think it's normal. We need to change the algorithm and remind them of other influences of the world. You know, if they want to go into the screaming world, maybe Hassan Parker or something like that, you know? If they want to go into YouTube, maybe connect to Conscious Lee. That's my guy. I love that guy, man. Okay, these creators are not toxic. They're not feeding into some program that are telling men how to be a specific type of version of themselves. I think also what we need to do is remind them of the truth, okay? Because they really believe that they've seen the truth with taking the red pill and coming into these spaces. We need to represent the stats and the facts to remind them that this space is a pyramid scheme. I think as long as you keep reminding them that this pyramid scheme is very real. This is a pyramid scheme in the way that these men within this space are trying to sell you something. What are they trying to sell you? It's normally a program or their own cryptocurrency. That's another pill they need to take, is remind themselves that they're being bought by the creators. Also, a reminder for the young men, specifically the teenage boys, which is main demographic, parents, brother, this is time for you guys to step up, okay? Parents, it comes back to you guys. What are you letting your kids watch? Like, I know that it's hard in this generation when things like the TikTok app exist. Look at what your kids watching. Like, watch them watch shit. And if they're watching these horrible men, limit screen time, change their content, be aware that they need to be watching something different. Show them Ben 10. That's what I was watching when I was younger. I love that shit. Show them Young Justice. Be aware of what they're taking in. Be aware of what the influencers are like teaching them, because it will impact their development and growth. These men are selling their Manosphere content. They would like to keep the boys within these insecure mind frames. They like to keep them there because that's what sells. That's what continues the cycle of keeping them within these spaces. Which comes into my conclusion, right? The Manosphere is built on perception. If we stop and look at the space and what it truly is, and we will start to see them as differently. The creators in the space are not all knowing. They're not guides. They are not mentors. It's a hoax, and not in just a small harmless way. It's a real influence. It shapes how young men think, and it shapes how young men see women and how they understand their own selves, and it feeds into the larger political systems. If we strip it back and seeing what's being sold, it's not self-improvement. It's not growing. It's not healing. It's wrath. It's wrath. It's anger. It's resentment. It's division. And it's all being packaged as the truth, the red pill. And the young men are struggling enough. And this system will continuously make them struggle. And it works because people believe in them, believes in it. And that's the core issue. The Manosphere isn't just a few guys making some shit for the bag. They are bigger than that. It's a space that's created a culture, cultivated a culture, and it has an audience. And the audience feeds into a system that's kind of pyramid scheme, where the creators sit at the top, selling their ideas, creating their own identities, selling their programs, and the viewers consume it, repeat it, and it spreads further. And the more people that believe in it, the more power it gains. And people actually understood what was being sold. And if they saw through it, the whole system would start to collapse, because at the end of the day, it relies on people buying it. And right now, too many people are. People trust these influencers. They believe their advice. They invest their time, money, and identity into what's being sold. But the reality is, it's a scam. It's not teaching men anything genuinely helpful. It's not giving them tools to build healthy relationships, to understand themselves, or to deal with their emotions. What men really need is real support. to sit with their emotions and not to run from them, to understand their emotions and not suppress them. They need connection, not comparison. And most importantly, they need to know that becoming a better man is not something you can just buy. These influencers don't have that power. They do not have that knowledge to teach you on how to be a man. That's something you need to figure out, my brother. Sooner that people see that, sooner will people stop buying into something that's ultimately harming them. I just ate, like, let me just sit in the 5-course meal I just fucking devoured. Thank you all so much for listening this far if you have. It's very truly appreciated. This was a video that I took a lot of time doing. I felt very strongly about it, and I know it was a bit chockers for you because it was chockers for me to record it. And there were so many elements to unwrap and explore, so I'm just grateful for you guys being here. Also, I'm very new to this space, the YouTube space, so please take it easy on the babe. I don't know what I'm doing. So I'm still learning. I really am grateful for people that do leave a like and comment. Thank you so much for listening and hearing me talk this much. It's a lot. It was a lot. But I also want to shout out Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood for being my inspiration for the video today. If you like my content, come and subscribe. If you want to hear more of my thoughts, subscribe to my Substack. I post every week. Anyways, thank you very much. Have a great rest of your day. Bye!